All right, welcome back, everyone. This week's Pictures of the Week are being brought to you by Flowers Garden Center. And it is the garden time of the year, not the deer processing. But Flowers is out there at 4550 Eatons Creek Road. Go by and visit them out there and tell them Southern Woods and Water sent you. Hey, we want to say a big shout out to Miss Hannah Smith, our producer of the show. She is not here tonight, and we have Rick Casebeers and Mary Elena are helping us out tonight. We are kind of fumbling through this just a little bit, not much, but we don't have the pictures because I send them to Miss Hannah, and then she can upload them onto the show. But her husband was involved in a car accident just this afternoon, and she is where she should be, right by his side at the ER, trying to make sure everything's still in working order. And we pray that it is, and hope for a very speedy recovery. We know he's going to be sore, but we're going to hold him in our thoughts and prayers, and we hope you do too. All right? We will have pictures next week, I promise you. We did send a bunch of them in, but we just weren't able to upload them. But I've got you the next best thing in the whole wide world. I have David, the one and only Genevico, on here with us tonight. And just a great honor to have him on the show. Talking about, he's so smart with these electronics and everything, and we're just going to pick his brain. Now, we talked a little bit about sensitivity. What is it, the 200 megahertz, or there's a 200, a 400?
Okay, so
what does that mean?
We're talking about kilohertz.
Kilohertz, that's it.
For lack of a better word, it's how many samples per second happen. Right. So 200 kilohertz means 200,000 samples per second. Now, if you're talking about sonar, which a lot of guys are using sonar, that's the more traditional way of kind of looking at your electronics. Usually they're 83 kilohertz or 200 kilohertz. Here's the Cliff Notes version of this. 83, a lower frequency, lower kilohertz, is going to cover a wider range.
Right.
A higher kilohertz or a higher frequency is going to be a more narrow range but more detail. And so I run mine on, if I'm looking at sonar, I usually run 200 kilohertz because I really want to see detail. I want to see bait fish, I want to see bass, I want to be, they call it target separation. I want to get separation of that fish in the bottom. So that's with respect to sonar, usually 200 kilohertz is about as high as we go.
Okay.
Now, side scan, side imaging, depending on what brand, they call it different things, or your down imaging, usually use 455 kilohertz or 800 kilohertz. Now, I've seen different schools of thought on this. I've talked to all my friends who are experts, Ben Parker, Brent Anderson. I've talked to some of the guys that do the electronics trips. Nobody's got an answer for exactly what's right, I think, in every situation. Personally, I run 455 on my Humminbird Onyx units. That's what I can see the best.
Okay.
I have heard some of the guys say once you get deeper than, say, 10, 15 feet, that 800 kilohertz works a little bit better. Honestly, I go back to the KISS method, keep it simple, stupid. I leave mine on 455 and never change it. But basically, that is how many samples per second you're taking.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense to me. Now, I've got another question in that the depth or the range, because a lot of guys I know will put it on auto range, which is a pretty good scan.
Right.
But they also tell you, if you're going to use your side scan, go 3 times the distance away from your boat as the depth of your boat. Okay. If you're in 10 foot of water, just go to 30 feet.
Now, you know how much math that is for these guys watching this show?
Hey, that's what I'm trying to get kids to go to school
these
here.
Guys are rednecks. They can't do that math, Hugh. Neither can I. No, here's my rule, okay? And this is probably the biggest mistake I see people make with side imaging. Don't look very far. And here's why. Let's say you're looking for a bass that is 20 inches long, okay? If you're looking at 100 feet on each side of the boat, how big is that 20-inch bass?
20 inches is not very...
It's 1/100th, basically, of half of your television screen. that ain't very big.
No.
So the bigger, the shorter the distance that you're looking at, let's say we go half of that, so we look at 50 feet. That bass just got twice as big on my screen from going from 100 to 50. Now some people say, well, I can cast further than 50 feet, and I understand that argument, but I usually leave mine 50, 60, 70 feet, and I don't mess with it very much because I am more concerned with being able to identify what's down there than being able to see something, you know, that's 100 feet over there. Because honestly, no matter what unit, I don't care what they say on the advertisement, no matter what unit, if it's 100 feet away, you're not going to be able to tell what it is.
That's right. So you like 50 feet?
50, 60, 70. I mean, I'll play with it a little bit. It kind of depends on what I'm looking for. If I'm specifically looking for bass, shorter distance is better, 50 or 60 feet. Let's say I'm idling around on Gunnersville and I'm looking for grass. Well, I don't have to see quite as much detail, so I might go a little bit wider. Or I'm looking for a stump field, or I'm looking for a laydown. You know, a laydown's going to show up as, if it's 20 feet long, it's going to show up as a big object. So I might go a little bit bigger, but when I'm specifically looking for bass, 50 or 60 feet is about what I look at.
And that's on a bigger screen. Now
And
you're
that's
running
on- Yes.
now if somebody's running like a 8 or a 7, would you consider
no more than 50, and maybe even a little bit smaller? When people ask me about buying units, and they say, well, you know, I want to get 2 or I want to get 3, and you know, everybody's got 2 back here and 1 up front, or 2.
Yep.
It's crazy. I used to catch a lot for with
just
one little
one.
5-inch
That's
screen back
right.
here. But when people ask me about what I should get, my #1 rule is, for your console, if you're going to be idling around looking for bass, which is, again, that's what I do
That's
in
what
the
you do.
summertime. I don't
That's
cast. I drive around and look at them on the TV screen. Get the biggest unit you can afford at your console. Now,
Right.
you can get, you know, an 8 or 7 or 6 or 5 or 2
Up front.
And I'm not saying that it's not important what you see on the graph up front, but if you want to use your side imaging, if you want to use your down scan, the bigger unit you have, the easier it is to actually pick up those fish. So back here, I'm running a 10-inch. I've got the Humminbird Onyx, which is the biggest Onyx that they make, and I'm running a 10-inch screen on it.
That's pretty good size.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the reason, though, that's what I'm trying to let our viewers know. That's the reason you can go 50, 60, 70 is you got a bigger screen.
Correct.
But if they're running a 7 or an 8,
yeah, maybe go even
40?
a little bit. Yeah,
40 might be the-
would. I mean, you're still 20 feet out from the
Yeah.
boat, and you still have your down scan and sonar to see under the boat.
That's
so it's
right.
not like you're not really losing too much by doing that.
When you want to go back, and I think that this is one of the better features on my Lowrance, I know, is if you do cross a school, you can easily take and waypoint that school, and I mean put a ping right on it.
Right.
Now I know you probably can with Humminbird also.
Correct.
That's
Correct.
People don't use that enough, I don't think. I know you do.
I do.
When you find fish, it's a waypoint.
Yeah. Yeah. There's lots of different ways of doing this, Hugh, and you know, you'll get lots of different opinions on it. What I used to do is I would idle over them. I know right where they are because I just drove over them. I've got a GPS track over them. I would back around and catch 1 or 2 and mark where I caught them. So mark my boat position. And now, the advantage of that is when I come back on tournament day, I bring my boat, I set my boat down right on that waypoint, and I know my cast, and I know I'm throwing at the right place.
Okay.
That's one school of thought. What I have kind of migrated to, I guess, is actually marking the fish. I hate telling all these secrets. Why do you bring me on here? I mean, really, Hugh, why do you...
We're trying to catch up, David.
Here's what I have learned a lot more about in the past few years. Those schools move a lot.
Yep.
Now, they may still be within 50 yards or 60 yards or 100 yards of where they were, but when I pull up to my waypoint and boom, 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 5 casts and I don't catch one, well, what in the world? They're gone. Off I go to the next spot.
They may have just moved just a little
moved up 20 yards or back 20 yards or down this way or down this way. So even in tournaments, I usually scan first and will mark the fish so that I know that I'm being the most efficient. I won't just, under most circumstances, just pull up and just make a throw where I thought they were. I'm going to wait until I actually see them.
One question is
I can't believe I'm telling y'all all this.
I can, and we've got this recorded. Another question has come up. Facebook is inundated with Navionics now. Navionics is really putting a big push on HD quality, 1 foot increments.
Right.
You interested?
Nope. I got a hummingbird. I don't need that stuff.
Well, that's true. That's
a
true.
lot of,
That's
again,
true.
just to speak across the different manufacturers, you know, there's a lot of really cool things that are going on now in electronics. Number one is the mapping's a lot better. So
Yes.
Navionics has 1 foot increments. Humminbird Lake Master has 1 foot increments. Garmin and Humminbird have mapping features. I could go to your backyard pond and in 30 minutes have 1 foot increments in your backyard pond with my Humminbird. Garmin can do the same thing. So if you had an area, let's say on Old Hickory, that you really like to fish, or an area maybe that nobody fishes, you could go out there and scan and scan and scan and scan, or same thing on Kentucky Lake or Priest or whatever. You can create your own maps now. So, I mean, there's no telling where this technology will take us. And I know, you know, some of the electronics companies are uploading those data, you know, that people go out there and record. They're uploading that so that they can make their own maps better. So there's really some cool stuff that you can do. But do I like 1 foot increments? Absolutely I do, because that lets us, you know, see so much more detail. I'll tell you this, again, I'm just giving away everything I know, but Humminbird has a map called a Lake Master.
Yes.
Okay? Lake Master, they don't have them for Old Hickory and Priest yet. For all the Tennessee River lakes, they've got them. So, of course, I bought one and put it in my graph, and this is like 2 years ago when they first came out. Okay, I have fished Kentucky Lake a lot, I backed my boat off the trailer, I idled off the ramp, I looked at that, and I said, well, I didn't know that was there. I went over there, and there was a big old school of fish on a place that I didn't even know existed. Just a little high spot, something that you would have easily missed. And for about 2 years, I never saw another boat on it. Now, there's a boat or two on it, because those guys have got those
binoculars come in handy too, David.
and Lake Master maps. You know, they start giving that stuff away. But I mean, that kind of detail when you are looking for schooling fish is key. Okay, here's another secret that I'm telling you. You know, everybody's got the maps. Okay? If you're running down Gunnersville Lake and you see where a creek dumps in to the main channel and makes a point, it's a pretty good place to fish, right?
Yep.
Everybody knows that spot because that's an obvious place. And so those spots are nice and they're fun on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Community holes. That's exactly what they are. Those spots are real fun, but in order to find tournament fish that you can do really well when there's a big crowd on the lake, 400 boats in a Triton tournament, you've got to be able to find little obscure details on your mapping and with your side scan and your down scan that's not obvious to every single person out there. And so, again, we're talking about kind of mistakes that we make and we learn from. You know, I can't tell you how many times when I first got started ledge fishing, I thought, boy, I have found them. You know, this is the greatest place ever. I'd never been here before. I found them on my graph, and there's 4 boats there the next day. I can remember telling my partner, man, I have found a place that's loaded with big ones and there's no one there, and we rounded the corner and there was no kidding, there was 4 boats sitting on it, and I thought, well, so much for my secret
So much
spot.
for my secret.
But the more detail you have, the more you can find those kind of little off-the-wall places like that.
That's awesome. Hey, I'll tell you what, right now we've got to do our product of the week. Now, this week's product of the week is being brought to you by Highland Rim Tractor. They're in Millersville, Tennessee. Go check them out. They are your Mahindra tractor dealer. Go out there and tell them we said hello. Hey, this week's product of the week is real easy. We've been talking about it. I still say these maps, these map chips and things like that, if you have ranch units, they're great. Garmin's has, and Humminbird has their own in-body stuff that's covered. These products get upgrades.
Yeah.
And I don't think, now you harp on this in your seminars, and I try to tell as many people as possible, you have the advantage that you can upload new info.
Right.
The serious guys are doing that.
That's right. That's
the
right.
ones that don't, you know, the weekend warriors, they're not doing it.
Right.
And they're missing the boat.
Right. So I think Navionics on their website, you can go and upload.
Yes.
Rather than pay for one card, and you may know this better than I do, you pay a subscription or something,
That's right.
and then you can constantly upload new data.
$10 a year if you got your iPhone.
Yeah. So it's a fantastic way to do it, because then they're taking all the newest information. Basically, if you guys don't know, this is how they get those data. This is how they get those maps. They take a boat out there and drive back and forth. And it's a computer recording depth and GPS position every 1 foot or every 2 feet or whatever. So, I mean, it's not as simple as them just saying, well, let's make a better map. They got to send 20 boats out, and they spend 3 months mapping a lake. So it's not simple to do.
No.
When they get that information, we want to take advantage of it.
We need to take advantage
right.
of it. Hey, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to open up our phone lines here at 615-737-7767. Get ready to call. I know you got some questions for David. I do. Be right back with more Southern Woods of Waters.